Hello, this is our tutorial for our third week of distance learning. This is on finding x and y-intercepts, and we're going to do a little review of slope as well since we did that last week. So as far as an x-intercept goes, I'm going to highlight this. An x-intercept is the point where the line, and in some places it can be a curve, but in these examples it's a line, crosses the x-axis. And the x-axis is, I'm going to highlight it on this one, is the horizontal axis right there. Whereas the y-intercept is the point where the line, or it could be a curve, crosses or intersects the y-axis, and I'm going to highlight the y-axis, which is right here. Okay. So we're looking for the point where the line is actually crossing those two axes. I'm going to go back and erase this part. I'm going to look at this first example here. Okay, so as far as x-intercept, here's my line, and I'm looking for where does it cross the x-axis. And the point that I notice that's crossing, I'm going to highlight it, is right there. Right there at that 3, because that is on the x-axis. And again, the x-axis is this axis right here. And that line is crossing the x-axis right at that point on the 3. So that's where my x-intercept is. I'm going to go ahead and write that in there. Now there's two ways that you can write it. Some people just like to write x equals 3. But if you want to actually give the coordinates of that point, okay, we always do the x number first, and this is an x number 3, and the y number would be the 0. Okay, remember when we write coordinates, it's always x first, y second. X is the sideways, y is the up and the down. Now if I'm looking for my y-intercept, I'm going to use a different highlighter for that one. It's down here. Once again, I'm going to highlight that y-axis is in blue, and right here at my -1 is where it was crossing. So now I'm going to go ahead and write my y-intercept. And again, some people just kind of like to write y equals and then the number, but really if we want to use coordinates, okay, my x number would be 0, because we always start at the origin, but then it goes down 1. And down is negative, so it's 0, -1. Now, if I'm looking at my slope, just as a slope review, those are two really good points to use. I'm going to go back and sort of draw a little line on them, because they're right through the corner. I can go straight up and straight across like last week. And if I count my up and down, that's 1 spot. If I count my across, that's 3. This is a positive slant or positive slope. When I write my slope fraction, the up and down number goes on top, the across number goes on bottom. And then if I try to simplify that fraction, I notice that it does not simplify, so I'm also done for slope. Now, as far as the second graph, if I look at this one, and again, I'm going to look at my x and y intercepts. So this time I'm going to do it in green. My x-intercept is, here's my x-axis, is right here. And if I count that over 0, 1, that's at the 2. So I can either say x equals 2, or I can do my coordinates, and the x number is 2, the y number is 0. Now if I'm going to go over and try to do my y-intercept, it's up here, and that's at the 1, so I can say y equals 1, or I can do 0, and then it's up 1. Notice in the intercepts on both sets of coordinates, there's always a 0 there, because they are on the axis. Now if I connect them to try to figure out my slope, okay, I notice that there is 1 space on the up and down, and 2 spaces across, and this is a negative slant, so I'm going to put my negative symbol. The up and down number goes on top, the across number goes on bottom, and -1/2 does not simplify. Now looking at the last two here, on this third one, it actually has dots on the intercepts if you were noticing them. I'm going to go back to green right here on the x-intercept at 4. So x equals 4. And my coordinates, the x number's first, the y number is 0. And then down here at the -5 on the y-axis, so my y-intercept is -5. And as far as my coordinates go, that's 0, and then it's down 5. Because we always start at the origin, and it didn't go left or right, but it just went straight down the -5. Now, if I try to do my slope, I'm going to use a different color. And again, I go straight up, straight across. And now I'm going to count my up and across numbers in between the -5 and the 4. My up is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My across is 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a positive slant. So the up and the down number goes on top, the across number goes on bottom. And then in my last one, I'm looking at my x-intercept. It's also over here at the 4 again. So x equals 4. 4, remember that's 4, 0 on coordinates. And my y-intercept is up here on the y-axis at the 2. So y equals 2. And then my y-coordinates 0, 2. If I try to connect these to figure out my slope, actually I want to change that to red. If I count my up and down, it's 1, 2. If I count my across, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a negative slant. I'm going to put a little negative. The up and the down number goes on top, and the across number goes on bottom. And that's fine, but actually what we'll find out, if you try to divide out -2 over 4, that actually simplifies to -1/2. I'm going to try to make that look a little bit better. That looks kind of like a 7. -1/2. And if I check that from here, I can see that if I go down 1 line and across 2, I'm back on the line. Down 1, across 2, back on the line. So yes, -1/2 is actually the better way to write the slope because it is now simplified.